Nardo's kind of, actually Lex is saying, well, Tamara was kind of at the very beginning of all of this stuff. Like, she set everything in motion. So it's funny how they're just kind of sitting there piecing everything together, and now we find out that Tamara's phone was taken and is being forensically looked at.
Yeah, but at some point you knew that with all the everything that they implied, her involvement, showing that flash, it's just nice to see them following that thread out and
Yes.
figuring out, where things are going, rather than just kind of like hinting at it and then letting us forget. It's like, oh no, there is involvement there, and we are going to discuss it, and we are going to bring this into the conversation. Same with even Lex and Sara talking about Steve, and just establishing, where he is and everything too. It's like, yeah, we have these other villains in place besides, well, not villains in Tamara's case, but like we have these other entities that are kind of on the outside right now. Adam's our big bad villain, but they still let us know what's going on with these guys and what where their situation is, and they tie it back to they tie back incidents that happened in Bay City and what's happening with Sara with the divorce, all of that. It's not like they don't let us forget, and they don't let it fall by the way.
It's almost like the arc with Steve Jensen is over. At least
it did
the way
feel
I
a
saw
little bit
it,
finalized. Yeah, it was a bit.
Because it was like the last time we saw Steve Jensen, he had turned himself in, or he was taken in. He was talking to Lex and talking to the detectives, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later or a week later, we see Lex with the divorce papers, and he said, there were some negotiations that went on, and that's it. It was almost like it felt like a finale.
A little bit, but also when Lex was kind of saying, oh, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Could be like, I mean, it depends on probably Matthew Ashford being able to appear on the show or not. There's still obviously windows and opportunities for him to come back. I mean, it's not like they even killed off the character, but it could have been a famous last words. He's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. Cut to Steve in a cell. We could totally see it happening. It probably won't be, but it leaves that door open. And it doesn't leave us just kind of leave that thread hanging out there. And it also sets the tone for Lex and Sara to just kind of, walk off into the sunset. If that winds up being kind of it's like, we get that closure. We get that sort of, wrap up, so to speak, which, they're tying in they're tying up the loose ends. They follow these threads through. They don't just leave you just kind of wondering what's happened to these characters, which some shows are guilty of doing at times. So it's nice to see, closure on one side, but then also discussion, plot advancement, all of that happening in the kind of similar conversations.
Exactly. But I really liked how now at the point where Pete and Vivian are kind of catching up on everything.
Right.
And Vivian, Pete picks up the rose and says, "Oh, just a single rose. So I have to go beat somebody up now."
Oh, and beat up Caleb. Oh, and he's a married man. He's a husband. Oh my goodness! Just that banter, just that cute. You can tell they're just like the chemistry between them is so apparent and just so tangible. And I love it when they get to just kind of banter back and forth like that. It's very sweet.
And I liked how Vivian kind of shared to Pete just how Caleb had asked about Daniel and what they went through, and Vivian said, you just gotta let Daniel come to you when he's ready,
right?
And then the way that Pete was talking to Lex about it as well, and Lex was like, well, I'm sure Daniel's got some type of PTSD, and this guy caused.
It's obvious, and it's good that they put a name to it right away and just acknowledge, like, this guy is going through it, and here's exactly what it is, and here's the reason why, rather than just trying to brush past it or say, oh yeah, he's a little trouble, or no, they're just calling it what it is. It was a PTSD from a horrible experience that he went through that, you know, give it time in the rest of the season, we're definitely going to see more heartbreaking, you know, moments spiraling from that. So it's definitely setting up for a lot of angst and a lot of, you know, but they're showing the fallout, which is good.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic that they're keeping with the fallout, especially now that we see Caleb we see Belinda and Adam show up in Bay City. But before we get there, I do want to go over and remind everybody that we do have our merch shop, and as I did mention at the top of the show, it is suds-media.myspreadshop.com, or you can just scan the QR code that's up in the left-hand corner. That takes you directly to our merch shop. Order merch of any of our logos and designed logos as well. And what you can do is you can go ahead and buy one of our cute little cuddle buddies.
Isn't he adorable?
We do have multiple animals. There's the teddy bear, of course, but we do have a dog, a panda, and I believe a frog. And you can go ahead and get any of the logos on there. And if you order the doggy cuddle buddy and the doggy cuddle buddy alone, if you order that, the proceeds do go to benefit Samantha's friends. And there, like I said, there is a new Vinnie Suds logo up there now, and you can check that out on other merchandise as well. So go to suds-media.myspreadshop.com.
Cute puppy dog that helps other dogs.
Exactly.
Let's call it what it is. It's a lovely little piece of merch that'll benefit a really, really lovely cause. So
yeah, exactly. So check out our merch shop, help and support our network and promote our network as well. We do have a lot of wrestling inspired logos like Suds of Mania for life or the Suds World Order. I do have multiple, or even just a Suds and Squared Circle Media hat logo on a hat, a shirt, or whatever you want. So check that out. Even the logo behind me, Doc F Inside, or the logo that's behind us, the Dockside at the Bay. There's multiple designs on there, and you can check them out and choose which one you want to put on a shirt, on a sweater, on a hat, on a cuddle buddy, on a bandana. The doggy bandana as well. If you want to order a doggy bandana, the proceeds go.
My parents' Yorkie gave it 2 paws up. I highly recommend bandanas.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and folks, check it out. Scan the QR code in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, or suds-media.myspreadshop.com. All right, so let's get into the idea of the Belinda and Adam showing up in Bay City. And
no, I did kind of notice, kind of tying in, we had the little sequence at the hospital where Vivian is singing to Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Yeah.
And I kind of was thinking like Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the, just, it's kind of a little foreshadowing for Adam, just kind of, up the spout again. He's back. And I noticed like that little detail, and I was just like, yep, he's back. The spider is back. I don't know if they're necessarily gonna, stick with that nickname for the guy, but yeah, no, he's it was just such a good cliffhanger, because you have it where you have Dre coming in on the scene as well, and it's just like worlds colliding in that moment. Her journalism, instincts in full on, just seeing this like woman exiting this vehicle, unfamiliar but tipped off, and then we just get that sinister shot of Adam at the end, and that was just so just
it
so
gives you chills.
It does, because and even I appreciated Zoe and Viv's conversition as well. The godmother sequence was very sweet, but when we got to have,
before you get to that, the way that the way that Belinda and Adam, got out of the car, and then you get that scene where they're kind of coming around the corner, and Belinda's in front, and then you see the camera, focus directly on Adam. It's like Adam's back with his entourage.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've got to find out how much time has passed, because the guy fell off a cliff, and, I'm sure his body had to be hurt, and all he's got is a little couple of stitches above his eye, and, a couple days later, he's walking around. Like,
I mean, we did have it where, the only reason I kind of wanted to twine in or wanted to mention the Vivian and Zoe convo was because they were talking about his face. They were going into that whole thing about how, oh yeah, like, didn't you like it freak you out that they had the same face? I love that they acknowledged that and had that moment. And then we get that whole backstory of Viv just saying like, oh no, he's evil. Oh no, I never saw him as Pete. He is trying to be Pete. And maybe he's trying to be Pete by getting some really fancy plastic surgeon person to fix up his face super good really quickly. Because, that was a bit hard to swallow considering he fell off a cliff.
But not even a limp. Like, he wasn't even selling anything. Like, I mean, if you look at a guy like Mick Foley going off the top of the Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring '98, crashing through the table, he's coming back with a limp, and he's.
And then you got this guy who's just a superhuman. Just apparently, takes a tumble off of a, cliff pretty high up. I mean, not like, a crazy high story.
It wasn't the Wile E. Coyote cliff, but it was still,
but enough of a fall for him to be presumed, dead, gone, knocked out at the very least, stuck in a coma like his, the guy pretending to be him. I mean, hell, Adam's impersonator, he got like, gosh, that poor guy got the crap kicked out of him. And, was, suffered the hospital. And then we have, but tumble off a cliff apparently doesn't cause as much damage to the real Adam.
Apparently not. The dude is unbreakable.
Yeah, unbreakable and exiting a car in just a very sinister fashion. Like, just that whole sequence was so, and like I said too, I just really appreciated that we had Dre there to witness it, and just that just leading into those worlds colliding, and her spidey sense being tipped off by what's happening, and very just like setting that little ominous sort of tone. Heck, even Sara and Sophia, when they had that little gift exchange, when Sophia hands her this crystal, that stone that you think is going to be like, just kind of a nice gesture. But even with that, I mean, the way that Sara looks at it and what the explanation of, when Sophia just says like, I saw you with Red, it's like you have these moments that just like with a touch of like just spooky, that whole sequence kind of went to spooky really fast, even though it was just her giving her a gift.
I think it was, I wouldn't necessarily call it spooky, but I think it was eye-opening for Sara to the fact of Sophia saying, I saw Lee and I saw Red and I saw you with them. It's like, that was all real. That wasn't a dream.
Yeah. So all of that being implied just kind of added to like a spooky sort of, it kind of reminds me of even like the pendant that she got, just like it tying back like that sort of superstitious, sort of weird objects and amulets and things like that just they were twining back into like that history a little bit with that scene, I thought, and it was just interesting.
And it just kind of solidifies the fact that Sophia has these supernatural powers that and it's like, and yes, we've known on soaps that that's kind of a trope for at least one character to have that, those things. But this is a little bit more toned down, where Sophia is literally coming out saying, listen, I have these, this ESP, this telepathy, this, empath power, where I was literally watching you. I'm the one that helped pull you out of that room.
Yep.
Because your soul was in limbo between, the two places.
Yeah. Poor Sara. I mean, she gets like, Oh yeah, I'm divorced. Oh yeah, I get to go to Fiji with Lex, and I have a grandbaby. And then she gets presented with this crystal thing, and then learns, oh yeah, I was hanging between life and death for a while, and being haunted by, the spirit of my psycho grandfather. Cool,
Yes,
great stuff. But she came out on the other side, and it looks, it's interesting, all these journeys that these characters have kind of been on. We're seeing some closure, we're seeing some doors open, we saw a lot in this episode, I thought.
we did. Yeah, we saw a lot of story driven dialogue. It wasn't action, but it was just a lot of story
No
driven.
filler, no fluff, because there's no room for it. And that's what
Right.
I'll appreciate about the Bay the most, is just the fact that it's able to, there isn't any moments where you're just kind of like, why is this scene taking place, or was this necessary, or could this have been on the cutting room floor?
Right.
It just goes, it flows so naturally and so well, and that's just a testament to the writing and everything about it. So
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. The conversation between Vivian and Zoe, you kind of touched on it, how you know, Vivian or Zoe comes in and says, "Motherhood looks so good on you."
yeah.
The way that,
Let's be real.
of
I
course,
mean, it was so funny too, even when she was just like, I need my body to recover and heal already. And we know the reason. It's obviously she and Pete want to have a little, romance time, which I understand. But it's like, my goodness, ma'am, you look really great, all things considered.
of course. But I liked how. All right, I got to ask you, if you happen to notice, and did you happen to notice that between the last time we saw Zoe and this time, maybe
Yeah.
I was watching on a better screen or whatever, but I felt like she, the shot of Zoe was, she looked a lot older than she was.
Little bit.
Like
a little bit. I noticed that as
a
well.
little ragged or something like that. I'm just going to put it out there that I'm not somebody that judges people on their on their looks or whatever.
No, there was a difference in her appearance, a little bit. I
Very
noticed.
much so. Like her teeth were a little,
Yeah. It's funny with the Zoe character, because I feel like she just kind of, she doesn't just drop in on it, but it feels like, compared to early on, she isn't as much of a focal point in a lot of these stories. She kind of
right.
pops up here and there, here and there. Maybe that has something to do with the actress's filming schedule. Maybe, who knows? But I have noticed that, slight shit. Given the fact that the show in Bay time is, still taking place within this like period of like what, a week. We were trying to figure out the timeline, everything like that. When you have, these actresses that take breaks and come back, you might, stuff like that can be a little bit more present, a little bit more noticeable. And
Right.
with the way they film and everything like that. But I did notice a bit of a, appearance sort of shift, so to speak.
I'm almost wondering if the way that they shot it and the conversation they had when Zoe said something to the effect of, did you ever, did you have a problem picturing your husband's face on Adam because they're identical twins?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, did you ever see the movie Shallow Hal with Jack Black?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah. Saw it a long time ago.
So he, the premise of the story is, he wants to get married to a girl, and he doesn't, but he went to a Tony Robbins self-help seminar. He got some type of mind shift, and now he's seeing people the way they are on the inside. They're based on their personality. So the Gwyneth Paltrow character is really this, overweight woman who isn't, stereotypically beautiful, but when he sees her, because of the good person that she is, he sees a model like Gwyneth Paltrow. But yet he sees this other girl who, happens to be a friend of Gwyneth's character as this haggard looking woman, and then they cut to what she really looks like, and she's like a Hooters girl or a model, like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's because her personality is evil or whatever.
Mm.
I'm wondering if that's what we're going to see of Vivian going forward, because again, not saying that Zoe is an evil character, but she's almost like just she's there as the sister. Obviously, she's Vivian's sister, so to the viewers, maybe she does look a little older and wiser and more mature or whatever.
Yeah.
The way that she said about Adam and Pete being not looking anything alike, because Adam is evil and they're complete 180-degree differences.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
as the viewers, the only difference is the blonde tips on Pete now and the tattoos on Adam.
True.
But the faces are similar. So for her to say, "Oh, I didn't see my husband at all," I'm wondering if that might be a mind shift that that Vivian is seeing now, and that's how they're explaining it to us.
Could be. It was definitely like kind of a loaded scene, in terms of the dialogue and in terms of like what was kind of, it wasn't just, oh yeah, I want you to be the baby's godmother. I love you. You're great. Motherhood looks good on you. Yada, yada. There was a lot of talk about look, and there was a lot of talk about just appearances. And who knows, that could definitely, be a thread that they're going to explore. I mean, the itsy bitsy spider stuff, who knows? There's like, they just little things being dropped here and there that make you kind of wonder. I mean, heck, even like we said, even with the conversation that Lex and Sara were having about Jensen. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Could be famous last words, or it could be that he is going to spend the rest of his life in prison and we're not going to see Steve again. We aren't really sure, but it depends a lot. Like, with the Bay, is as much as we love it. I mean, we're in season 8 now, and with the actors and the scheduling and folks kind of coming in and out, the good thing is with this show, it's like even when we have this kind of shift in who's our main players and who's the folks that are getting kind of, it still holds your interest. You still want to see where these characters are at. They still manage to twine in that history. They still manage to make sure that new characters are getting established and their storylines are getting fleshed out more, like we saw with Caleb. So it's like, even if we're in like the midst of like this transition and some exits and some of our heavy hitters not necessarily making as many appearances, we know that there's folks to kind of pick up the slack and back it up. And there's stories and things that are still getting explored, which I wish that Days had the luxury of being able to kind of do. And other current daytime, I wish that they had the ability to kind of make those pivots and adjustments, and also just kind of have the writing to like back it up, like when they bring in these characters and have them kind of shuffling in and out, because it's great when you see it done, and it's kind of frustrating when it's not.
Exactly. All right. Well, folks, I mean, I think we kind of covered just about everything in this episode.
I was trying to think of, one other line. Nardo gets a shout out for a line for me. When he said vanquish his ass, I'm just like, yes. Nardo gets some of the best lines, I swear. I'm
really liking the evolution of the Nardo character, because we knew that he was a retired detective. And then, with all this that's going down, Lex is spending his time in the hospital with Sara. Right. Nardo comes out of retirement, gets back on the force. Yeah. He's got his badge back.
He's a sassy patriarch. He's becoming a sassy patriarch, and that makes me so happy.
And, I mean, it's great because we're seeing more and more of him. And then the parting line where Lex says, Nardo, you're fantastic. I'm gonna talk to the mayor and recommend that you take over my spot when I retire as the next, police commissioner. And I thought that was absolutely great.
Oh, me too. Yeah, no, just that conversation again, just so true meeting of the minds. Meaning of, those three interacting. And I have to say, it did make me miss Tristan Rogers all the more. I'm just going to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the fact that this season is the past 2 seasons have shown Tristan Rogers and Jackie Zeman so much, over the course of these 2 seasons, and it's been, reliving, them in their. This wasn't even their prime, but this show brings out the best in both of them.
Absolutely.
Like, as a GH watcher, Jackie Zeman being Bobby Spencer, Tristan Rogers, Robert Scorpio, they were recurring, so they weren't on as much. But on these shows, they're front and center in the front burn storyline.
Yep. You love to see it. You love seeing their faces, but it is bittersweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, so, and as always, a very quick episode, 23 minutes, I think, and that was with everything, including the flashbacks and the credits. Yeah. And of course, we're at almost 40 minutes now, so we actually talk longer about the episode than the episode actually airs.
It's just a lot to talk about, though, which is great.
Exactly, and folks, you can find The Bay on many different streaming platforms. You can find seasons 1 through 8 on Amazon Prime Video, along with Bay the Beginning, which is a completely separate season, but it's called The Bay the Beginning. So check that out. If you're going to start watching it, check that out first. And we have all the companion episodes in our archives. And we also, seasons 1 through 8 are on Prime. Seasons 1 through 6 are on Peacock. And then I believe 1 through 9 is on Tubi, and Roku, and Popstar On Demand. And then season 10 is currently on the live weekday rotation on Popstar. So you can find The Bay in multiple places, but of course, go to thebaytheseries.com for more information about the Bay. Don't bother looking up the Wikipedia page. It's really not much there. The IMDb page is really good, though. Yeah. I will say that. But, folks, we are out of time. Kim, where can everybody find you on social media?
I am Misfit8690 on Twitter and a Little Misfit52 on YouTube. So feel free to follow me there for soap-related stuff and just to chat about soaps or whatever strikes your fancy.
All right. And as always, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Vinnie Suds. On Twitter, you can follow our network account, which is at Suds Media. That's where you get most of the programming information about our network right there. And then on TikTok and Twitch is at Suds_media. On Instagram and Threads is at Suds and the Squared Circle. But for everything related to Suds and Squared Circle Media, you can go to suds-media.com, which brings you to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and like this video. Click the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that anytime any content comes on our network, you will get the notification. Also, don't forget to send us a super chat, a super thanks, or super sticker on any of our content on our YouTube channel. And as little as 99 cents does support the network. And you'll also get entered to win a Suds and Squared Circle Media t-shirt in our monthly drawing. Every super chat gets you an entry. If you do 10 super chats, you get 10 entries. If you do, 100 super chats, it would be great and help support the network. Awesome. But that gives you 100 entries into the drawing. So check that out as well. But folks, we are out of time. I want to thank you all for tuning in.
Yes.
For Kim, I'm Vinnie. We will see you next week at the same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, as we go Dockside at the Bay. Have a great night, everybody.
Take care, everyone.